Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, the Grand Arena focused podcast. Focused on the top 100 here or thereabouts. We try. I am joined here by my regular co-hosts Dagger, TJ, Sasha, Aisha, and Fatal. It is the end of week 2, dawn of week 3, as we speak right now. Guys, I have to come clean. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. All legitimate opponents this week. I just straight up had a counter that has been working for me all season fail me hard in round 2, causing that classic cascade where there's really nothing I can do about it after a certain point, and there's like 2 or 3 teams standing in the back that you don't even get to attempt. Third round, I just had Night Sisters. I learned a new lesson, a new corner case about playing that fight versus Jabba. And then I had some other efficiency lessons as well, but I definitely got stomped out those latter 2 rounds. How about you, Dagger? I can't wait to hear how it went for you.
Well, it's a bittersweet week. I now have the largest account due to Cyrus quitting, but I'm not buying Omega, so Chiss will probably pass me. I'll be back in the second spot. So as far as GAC goes, I hate to report. I'm sad to report I did go 3-0, and I'm still in Erodium 1 until the end of this season.
Shocking.
Yeah.
All right, TJ, how was your week?
Oh, it was another shit show for me. Another 1 and 2. The only one that I trampled on was the one who wished I would die from cancer. Nobody saw the post. Anybody else wants to look at it, I'm happy to share it. I'm just checking on my friend who wrote me the love letter about me dying from cancer, and other expletives that was really good. It's a great show. If anybody wants to take a look, I post it all the time. I post it out for other people, so it's free to look at. Other than that, 1 and 2, and I'll take it, and it's just going to continue on, I guess. But it is fun.
He stopped just short of telling you to Chris Benoit yourself.
Oh, I probably inclusive of the Chris Benoit,
I'm
but
sure
I don't
the
know.
sentiment
It's a good point.
was there.
Good call.
And I honestly, I remember telling you this at the time, TJ. I might not just get that printed and put in like a cheap frame put on the wall.
Right.
I might have that oil painted and put in a frame.
Yeah, it deserves all the brushstrokes.
Like
I think
a proper frame.
and anybody who wants it, by all means, DM me so I can show it. I've shared it out with Zara.
Yeah, I'm not showing it on this screen, but I will say this. It's whenever you can trigger that kind of rage in someone in a video game, that's just me over here, Farmer Franning it. Like at the end of Waterboy, I am just the best, the absolute best.
As Tasso put out, the Tass nipple clamp Discord GIF is a meme that would long relic what you want to look at. And the best part is, as you will be a surprise, it was aligned to the Sasha defense that goes with the image that held. Fantastic. For what we I think 99% suspect is a cheater, but apparently you couldn't cheat that. So I think it was good. Okay. It was either way, it was fun, man. So 1 and 2, but man, that image. I was trying to keep it open in the game itself.
That's the standout for the week for you, for sure.
I mean, it's
the real achievement.
It's for Swigo, the community at large. This is the best message you would ever get, and you would not expect it.
Well, so it's also a hell of a consolation prize. If you're going to go 1 and 2, you can also stick that as a feather in your cap.
Yes, I think everybody loved it. Good times.
Yeah, good times. All right, Sasha, Aisha, how was your week? I know I was able. I can't thank you enough, by the way, for brokering that match between yourself and Aesop that I was able to cover after I streamed my own match in round 3. Super fun, but how was the week as a whole for you?
Yeah, it was good. That match was in the championship round, so a 2-1, but it was the only genuine match, and that was a great one. I thought it was pretty representative of what Aesop and I go through on more or less a weekly basis. Kudos to Aesop for being really creative with this defensive back wall, and I'd say it's representative of our matches because I can't tell you how many times they'll generally be quite close, and it reaches a point where one of us, and it's often Aesop will go earlier than me, hits a point where he's like, "Oh, that's it. I've lost it on banners. GG, Sasha." And then I failed to get sufficient banners to win, and that's exactly what happened. But it was a lot of fun, and yeah, some interesting lessons, like interesting situations where counters that appear relatively, if not rock solid, fall apart based on like really like artisanal, thoughtful modding
Yeah.
that he had on some of them, and that was really cool. We'll dig more into that, but fun week, and it was a lot of fun to stream it. So thank you, Tess.
Oh, really? The pleasure was all mine. All right, Fatal. How about you? How'd the week go? I missed your last round entirely, so I'm in the dark.
My last round was actually a fuck ton of fun. It was like one of the best streams that I've had in a while.
See, I always
Like,
miss the good stuff.
yeah, it was just had a few really nice slug out matches that were like literally down to like one character left, 10 HP left. Good shit. I'll probably. You're asking for video. I could actually like send it for later.
Please, yeah, we'll get to it for sure.
But no, 3-0. If I didn't have a New Year's crash out, I think I would have been 6-0 this season. And I told myself that this season there was no real excuse to not go 9-0. So I'm at least on track for 8-1. But we'll see how things go.
All right.
You
Yeah.
came in, Fatal, really quick before we move off of it. You were talking about your enthusiasm and excitement coming into this season. I hear the positivity now. Is it living up to or even exceeding your expectations?
The thing is, with 3v3 being kind of how I view it and what it is, where it's just kind of the safe harbor for fatigue defense and going wide in theory crafting in that route, it more so than anything, it just kind of feels like a return to kind of going home, or like how things usually are, how things kind of should be for me. That like, yeah, I feel like I've got a pretty strong defense. I'm excited enough that I want to put a prime bot and like actually watch what opponents attack, and then I wouldn't say that I'm like, man, this season's amazing. It's just like the season's me falling back into my wheelhouse and getting to run the shit that I usually run, because like, there
So
aren't any like.
So can I ask you, Fatal, have there been any free rides? Hashtag no free rides 2025 for Fatal.
I mean, technically, like, I didn't even tech my Ahsoka against Magma. I was just like, my General Assembly is not really modded. Fuck it, I don't care. And I gave people like a Magma easy clear on Ahsoka, or like technically there's still some push and pull on some of my counters. But I've only been cleared once this season, and that person had like 4 drops. Or drops on pretty big teams.
And I mean, in terms of no free right, you set datacrons with your defense this time, because as I recall, I think when you were cleared, you did not set datacrons. So,
well, if you want to know how this season is trending, I got less holds when I added datacrons to my team. So I think that really indicates that.
There we go.
The data
hold
has
us all
spoken.
back.
You heard it here first. Datacrons completely unnecessary for Kyber 1 gameplay.
Counterproductive.
Actually, just counterproductive. Yeah.
There you go. Detrimental. All right, guys, we have a robust agenda this afternoon to discuss. First up, fighting Rey with Exile Ezra plus the Balenkron applied. And the reason folks are doing this is because the stats. It's pretty much just the stats. And if you had good luck in randoming into your Balenkron, you might have a ton of health and a ton of offense. I encountered one myself, and I wanted to pull up this fight just for you guys to see. Let me pull it, speed it up, though. Well, here, let me just drag over just this. All right. Speed, playback speed, 1.25. All right. Got this up. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right, so, yeah, they go for, wait, hold on. It happens so quickly. I want you to see again. All right, boom. He gets the stun on Balin, so Balin gets lapped now. They all have foresight. I shouldn't throw my special, I'm thinking. And, boom, before Balin's first actual turn, we have the AoE ability block out on everybody.
Do you remember last season when I said that I was like overreacting and putting Ben Solo on super speed crit damage?
No, or I didn't think you were overreacting. I remember you saying it. I was wondering if it was worth it. I didn't know if it was necessarily an overreaction, but
I'm gonna be honest. It was just theoretical. I'm actually kind of pleased to see that it actually kind of maybe helps.
yeah. And I gotta tell you, man. So you saw, Shin ends up being their priority target, rightfully so. You don't have the juice really
Yes.
after she's gone. So this was horrible. I ended up having to use Seabane, and obviously I was in that cascade I was telling you guys about after that. But we can stop that particular fight right there. That was a mess. Sasha, I think in your round, you had, I think you had the same situation. One of you had the same situation. I forget it was you or Aesop that was doing it, but it was your Balin got stunned, but then somehow I think it was Aesop who won the
It was
fight.
Aesop again. So Aesop and I each said it. I tried to get a little cute with it. I said it back wall. I thought when he looked at my history that he might expect me to set Jensen Dula, Padawan Sabine, and Ezra because I had banged my head against Baby Yoda's multiple times the prior week, and he knew I was impressed with that squad. So I set it back wall, hoping he might not keep a counter for full Ray Ben Ezra with the Balin Kron. He set his front and center for me, but I brought Seer Malikos SK. I don't know this like with certainty, but my impression is if you're not running a Balin Kron, so if that Ray squad does not have the sort of godly offense that has blessed certain Balin Krons, that the Ray SK Malikos. I'm sorry, not Ray. Seer SK Malikos squad. I apologize. With SK Kron has a very good shot. That it has the sort of survivability combined with the damage to be able to get through it. I think the odds are pretty good. If it's a high offense Balin Kron, I wasn't going to feel comfortable with it. He had set. Just the damage crit avoidance level 6 with his Ray Ben Ezra. I used that. You saw that on the stream. It was anything but comfortable, but I was able to get through it. There were certainly moments of terror with it. One thing I will say, I think my ass was saved by, I believe it was like the UFU damage immunity 6, or at least a damage immunity that procced on Malikos, because otherwise I was about to lose him. And then I faced, he faced mine, bringing exactly what you did, the Balin Merc squad. And I had my Balin Kron on Ray with like 118% offense and like 50% health. So, fairly well stacked against him. His was. Like if I were him, I would have been terrified with the way it went. But ultimately, he was able to get all but Ezra down. He was able to get Ray and Ben, but there were multiple times, like it did start, like you said, with him losing a Balin turn. There were multiple times where his sides, Shin in particular, were very close to dropping off. Ultimately, I think Balin died first to a whirlwind, but very good match, very good battle, I would say, but successful on his part because it kept him from a hard stop that would have determined the match otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. I got a question for you guys. So first of all, having experienced that last week, I did make some adjustments to Ray. My Ray's been something about 12,600 offense at 240,000 health, about 500 speed. And experiencing that higher offense, I thought I'd do a little bit of push-pull action, and I swapped to primary. Instead of, health primary, high secondary of offense, I swapped the triangle, resulting in just under 500 speed, 228,000 health, but now 13.1k offense, so fully 500 more. So I've made that adjustment. But the question for you guys is, Sasha, you were just saying that against that crit avoidance level 6, you felt that that's going to be easier for you to deal with than if it was the Balin Kron, right?
Considerably easier, and I think it's the absence of that
It's a shame.
Balin offense. There are other exceptional stats that can come on that Balin Kron that could perhaps help turn the tide, but it's primarily that offense. So the ability for your squad to survive. The other thing that I'll say is the 100% crit avoidance on that is fairly easily overcome when, like, you've got if you've got some crit chance on your Datacron. It's not hard also to mod for a decent amount of crit chance. And I know the effective crit chance when you factor in kits, I think Malikos gets 30% crit from his unique as well, is like my Star Killer goes in with like 190% crit chance and Malikos has like 160. So you can take 100 off and you're still going to be able to take off the Inspired fairly easily. I mean, as long as it's not crit immunity on Red.
Fair.
I'm gonna be honest with you all. The mod swap that I talked about a season ago probably clears Balakron super fucking easy.
What are we talking about?
The Star Killer faster than Mara.
Star Killer
Mara goes
Oh,
second.
yeah. Okay, dig it. Yeah.
The one version array that puts the Fear Economy, but I don't think anybody is keyed into it, is the auto self cleanse.
Yeah,
the 65% chance.
Doing that with a Calcron.
Yeah, Calcaron are honestly fucking 89, but like the fundamental premise is so right. Like we talk about the fundamental nature of Star Killer and why I think Balancron, even if it's like god offense, isn't scary. Right, you break down Star Killer unique plus Mara, you've got double your bulk, and then you have their damage, and then you have offense down to boot. That like even a god Balancron is effectively reduced to, or a god offense specifically. I start there. Is like reduced by what, like 75%? Which is like, that's still a fair chunk of offense, more than we ever really get to see or play with. But I feel like Star Killer is perhaps equipped to deal with. And then to boot, the lines with Star Killer Chron existing right now are so aggressive that like half the time Ray's not even getting to ult, in my experience. So like you kind of deny their power fantasy. The caveat that I'll give is I think when Star Killer Chron goes, that Balin Chron bulk would look better.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like it's so unfair the amount of shit that Star Killer gets to do that I don't know. This is like one of the best Star Killer versus Ray seasons that I've seen, even when I'm fighting Ezra. Like Ezra just doesn't exist. Ray,
as long as Ezra doesn't get exile on SK, I would imagine in that three tune comp, and I think probably where you're getting at, and that's been my experience when I've tried it and it worked smoothly, is so much damage is done so early on, and frankly, you're moving quickly enough. You're probably keeping Ezra stun locked without able to get exile out before really sort of the work is done. Is that right?
yeah, Ezra Berserker never gets to play the video game after my first turn.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think crit avoidance level 6 might be slightly bugged, so that does impact things a little bit. That I think CA6 would feel a lot better if it actually just did its job. Does Malikos have any locked buffs? I've never played Malikos on offense, so sorry if this is like 101 shit, but
I do
believe or debuffs.
Yes,
not buffs.
I do believe he applies like locked healing immunity, something like that. I'd have to check.
I can't recall if they're locked.
If he's got something that he can pop on Ray, then that would be kind of the axis right now. Is if you spend Malikos, then you don't have to care about the auto cleanse as much, as long as you can maintain it at the key whirlwind moment.
Yeah,
type shit.
So I mean, just hearing you guys discuss this. So I prepared this Chron this week. Set 19, light side bulk level 3, crit avoidance and crit chance Ufu level 6, Fulcrum 9. Don't care about the Fulcrum part really, but 55.59% offense. So based on what you're saying, if I was of the mind to between this and Balin, I should probably stick with the Balin Chron on Ray. Is that a correct read? Hearing you guys?
To be honest, I don't know if my opinion is indicative of the mass. I mean, I'm pretty sure my opinion is not indicative of the mass, but like, that's just kind of my philosophy is, like, I'm actually experimenting the exact opposite, where I stripped Ray down to like 10k offense, and I've got all three of them on heavy defense set, just like, okay, can I just lean in on Cal to make the team just a bunch of pieces of shit? And maybe not, but maybe.
Okay. Well, I mean,
I will say, like, my impression now, having seen a few of these battles, and prior to lock, I did re-roll a Calcron specifically to get to that Dispel level 6, because I think that can, in the right situation, like, it just throws some pretty cool variability in and doubles the amount of damage that a race squad's doing. And so, like, if you had that cron test, I would probably rather have the 65% chance to dispel
I do have that
than
with
the
a
crit
Cal.
avoid.
After Fatal mentioned it in our recording last week, that
Great.
was
Yeah.
priority number one. So we took care of that. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys talking that out. Yeah, I mean, you guys had already hit on it separately, but Seer Malicos Starkiller was my solution to get a whopping 53 against this in a variety of occasions. I've been kind of gun shy about Balin ever since on offense for that purpose. All right. Any other comments there? I know we kind of steamrolled you there, TJ Dagger. I know Dagger's getting a lot of opportunity these days to work out, the details of that Balin counter. So
I think you guys nailed it all of it. That's why there's nothing for me to add there. I think
that's
perfectly covered
it's
it.
a polite check for that reason.
Yeah,
All right.
I think the important part to remember, and I think a lot of people maybe forget. I know I mentioned this to somebody on your server yesterday, the day before.
Mhm.
If you have a good Balin cron, it's just probably not with Balin. That's probably correct for what it's worth, right? So like, Balin still seems to work without his cron. So we'll see
He's
how that
decently
goes.
happy with Darkside 25 TM, yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see how it plays out going forward. Like I said, I have nothing to add. They covered pretty much all the bases.
Okay, good stuff. Next item: Great Mothers versus Queen Amidala. Now, I'd heard this through the grapevine, and I guess our buddy Arsenal was also shouting it from the hilltops separately. But Queen Amidala just gets crushed by Great Mothers. I know in the preview episode for this season, we were talking about how we expected Great Mothers to perform now that the set 17 cron had expired. And yeah, people, we talked about the Darth Revan counter for it. I know Fatal wanted to talk about that a bit separately. We'll talk about that very next. But the idea here is that in a world where Great Mothers just isn't a slam dunk, like no-brainer defense anymore, finding a high-value counter is amazing. And let me see if I've got the footage of this one, because that was a blowout. It was a lot of things. Close was not one of them.
While you talk about the blowout, did you by chance see the round 3? I think Arnold had.
No, I missed.
And I'm going to call this out for a reason.
Mhm.
When you add the same level of setup that you would do with the high offense,
Mhm.
Again, I'm not going to call it could be some user error, but I watched his Great Mother's team that you're saying is a slam dunk get dunked. And I'm talking his
Really?
Morgan got deleted, and it's not nothing. So again,
Really?
user could be anything like that, but I want to call out that while you're doing this same Balin Cron on your Ray team, somebody put something similar. It was a good offense setup on QA, and that ate up his Great Mother's team. So I just take that for what it is. All the other pieces to it, but that was interesting that I said
here,
that.
I found the VOD. Let me pull this over here, and maybe you can share where the fail point is in relation.
When you lose, when that team deletes your Morgan and you have nothing to protect you and you just get wiped out. That literally was the thing.
Okay, so yeah, I know there's a few different ways to play this. Some people like to put Doom first on Padawan Obi-Wan. I did it to Queen here.
He did do it on Padawan. So just to call that, or excuse me, Pow Padawan. He did do it to Pow as the initial point because obviously you're trying to eliminate some of the damage input that's going to hit you. But yes, he did do that first, not Queen.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. And then I put Blessed on Spirit. I did think about it a minute, but I want to say it was either Sasha or Aesop yesterday saying they felt that Blessed was best on Morgan. More on
He
that?
did Blessed on Morgan, FYI. So he actually put the Blessed on Morgan.
Okay.
I think it was Sid that suggested Morgan because of the survivability concern. I historically done. I historically twice. I think I've done. I've done it on offense and I've put Blessed on Spirit just to maximize the DPS output of my squad.
I think, and that's where I think the difference maker comes in, is the fact that you think with the Morgan and the durability. But again, I don't want to steal from his thunder, but if you watch it, that offense that piled in.
Spirit dispels before doing damage, right? So unless there's foresight, she'll dispel before doing her damage on her special.
I would hope. I would think so. I can't attest to that.
I'm not. I
Yeah,
know
no,
she
she's
does not dispel the foresight before her attack because it can be evaded.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Foresight's
That's what I'm asking mechanically. I know it doesn't work against foresight, but does she dispel those busts before? If she dispels the bust before, then she's going to do a lot more. I'm just trying to figure out whether or not you want to actually do like how much damage you're going to do through doomed or whatever. Whether you need to bless her or not for damage purposes.
It's just the point of seeing that it's a slam dunk and then seeing that with a high offense or high impact cron on your queen team, we know how durable Morgan is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has their R9. This was the same thing, but his Morgan got deleted. Two-word strong hit.
I rolled in there with a set 18, and I biased just for bulk. Okay, what did he do? The same? What was?
I didn't get to see the specs on the thing, but it was watching the difference, and I don't know how much it's going to. Is it really going to matter when they're hitting under with what they're doing with the POW hits? But it's just the amount of damage she was taking. It was too much to sustain. So again, I would say go look at his VOD. This is why I keep saying go watch your streamer and all that. But seeing that you could set it up where it's like we're watching you, we're watching others, and like it's a slam dunk and go do it, and you do a trick like a la what Sasha did to me, and I'll never let it go. These key pieces change up the fight. You put the high damage because there is a lot of damage that's there to be had. He didn't put Balin. The dude had just built a really high offense cron that was set for it. And Arnold didn't check, and his team was kaput.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say, not everything's created equal, and it's cool to see we're doing it with Ray, but we can do it other places too. That Kron can change your fight, and what you think is a slam dunk, all of a sudden you get dunked, and it's like, oh, I was not prepared for this.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, I definitely have those characters modded for durability, and I took set 18 Kron to be all that much larger. You saw that, yeah. I want to say at one point in the fight there, Morgan got down into yellow health. As you said, Padawan Obi-Wan hit under her protection. She does stack a lot of protection, so, not quite remembering which set 18 Kron I chose. I should ideally be choosing one that skews more towards health than protection. But it did feel really safe, and I think why I dare go so far to call it a slam dunk, at least as far as I could see, on a sample size of 1, is being able to preempt Queen Amidala before she gets to go is pretty neat. And you saw that I didn't doom Padawan Obi-Wan, but being able to just completely remove Queen within a couple of turns felt good. I don't know if you guys have any contrary experience about Doom Order or Blessed Target that you think improves your odds in that fight? Because TJ shared, a little bit on what not to do.
Well, the other thing I want to add, since we're talking mothers, right? Or excuse me, QA and all that, I took a different route and went yours. It was what you did on your thing, and I had the thought it would work, and I think I saw Fatal do it too, is just Trio doing the work. And that feels like a great slam dunk. So I saw what Neo told to you, and so I got to see the pieces of it. Fatal, I think I saw it on your stream too, where you're like, I'm going to do Trio. And it on the Queen
like
team, using Trap.
I'm a poster, not a holder.
Okay.
You must have him confused.
Yeah, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was like the Trio seemed like a good idea because of the idea that you got the sustainability from the team to just wait it out, and then when it's time, you just pop them and you drop them. And that was my thought going back to. And it felt just as safe. But again, I don't remember where I saw it. Mothers have other
Aesop
places.
used it against me, TJ. That might be it.
Maybe that's what it was too.
But
that's what I mean. It's like it feels good there because they can take the sustainability of doing the hit. And a lot of places where you're prescribed to use your Treya is like, well, I'm just going to go do against Tuscans. Well, fair. Tuscans have other things that can take it out because that's where I started playing with them. Like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go Treya and do Trio because that's a classic. Yes, using Great Mothers there is great. But Trio felt great, man. That felt really good in a lot of things, and they don't need much to be able to just sustain and get through it. And that is still, in my opinion, a key defensive team.
Okay. One quick thought for the listeners is I know lock's already taken place, but if people were kind of considering what to set with that Treya squad, like depending on how you've modded them, they either may be suited for a QA counter, in which case I think Really, by that I mean like high health and high defense, considering you get some major attacks that are coming under protection. Or if you're going to set them on defense, you probably don't want to go all health
Right.
because you expose yourself to a Gidme counter. So kind of depending on how you're modded, you're probably suited for one or the other purpose. Maybe some degree of versatility, but if you go too far in one direction, you can impair yourself in the other.
Very fair. Okay, guys, next item. Darth Revan versus Great Mother. So, we'd talked about this. We'd heard that this was something that could be done, and we discussed it briefly last week. But, Fatal, you had some experience you wanted to share about a few fights, this being the first among them.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on both sides of the coin where
Please.
I haven't had a Darth Revan beat my Great Mothers yet, and all 3 rounds tried, I think.
Is this because it's the turn meter level 3 on a set 19 crown? Does that just forbid it? Or what's the secret there?
I mean, I want the heavy defense, heavy protection, and I mean, so
For everybody, all 3.
Spirit, I think, might be a hybrid between damage and defensive protection. The caveat, and I can throw the link in it. It actually has all 3 fights at this timestamp.
Fantastic.
My Darth Revan is still a holdover from set 16. Okay. I actually just realized just now after lock, so technically this is a hazard for this week as well. My Darth Revan is crit damage triangle, offense, cross, speed, arrow, so that's not much health.
Very thin.
I played against a Great Mother squad who had the TM and went first, and before I got to play the video game, my Darth Revan got killed. And I ended up winning it anyway. It was, but I think the thing that stands out to me here is if the squad was modded the way I mod, it wouldn't even be a starter. It would just be like, no, done, just get the fuck out of here. But again, kind of going back to what I was talking about last week, if you give too much to Malik Drain, you are cutting the longevity of your team in half. That like you kind of get what you have coming to you if you leave the team modded that way. I posted the link if you just want to like 2x it real quick. It was an absolute shit show of a fight, but given that my Darth Revan's way too squishy, like I might just have to pull a health crown to make up for the modding. So yeah, like Malik 2 drains turned out immediately. Like,
okay,
no death mark yet.
Not that what's the kit? What's the kit out that you've got for your 3 here? I know it didn't matter for DR, but are you still rocking speed, Malik? Because I am, and I don't know if you don't have like all defense set up, like what you seem to be favoring for a lot of teams these days. Is this like you need not apply?
I don't remember. I haven't really looked at the Sith mods in ages.
Fair.
I know a lot of the time I was running Malik 1 over DR. I mean, if you're teching for this matchup, you wouldn't mod for defense just because Spirit's going to ignore that most of the time, I'd imagine.
Are you prepared to say here and now that if you're willing to do it, like, is it a minority of teams now that really, really need the speed set, or are you willing to say that if you were so inclined, you could build up a variety of different speeds and secondaries on defense sets and just never be wrong, if not for offense always, then for defense always in Grand Arena? What do you think about that?
I like how you said defense and then like Spirit one-shots Malik because she ignores defense.
Well,
so I appreciate
hold
the timing
on.
that
She
statement.
didn't.
Look at the health bars on Malik.
She one-shot an exceedingly doomed Malik.
Okay? Malik was literally 1 health.
Yeah, like what do you want from the man?
I want him to not be a giant bitch.
Okay. All right, and you said this was the first of a few fights you had timestamped, or?
That was actually at the end. It was the other fights on the list, like right before this. Or this is CLS versus Enoch, and then either before.
Oh, this is the next. Oh, I see. Because you mentioned these are other fights you wanted to cover. Okay, well, here, let me pause this before we go into it. But yeah, so why do you want to highlight this match, CLS versus Enoch? I mean, obviously because it works, but what are you prepared to share the sauce behind this, the recipe?
Well,
so to
that's
speak?
kind of what I was trying to say pre-show. Is this isn't like some deep dive? It's more so just like, hey, I'm using it. It seems pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are posting Enoch, and I don't really have a major job for CLS aside from like picking off bad Saw teams. I don't know. It just seemed like kind of like Zori against Gungans. It's just like, yeah, if you're just like trying to knock out 15 teams on a board, and
I
a lot
would
of
like
your
to go
teams
back
occupied
to
elsewhere.
I would like to go back to a question you asked but was never answered.
Oh.
I do think we have entered a part. I do think we have entered a portion of this game where I don't think speed is as necessary. Now, don't get me wrong; it's still good, but I think the majority of characters, like we put them in speed sets because we don't know what to do with them, and I think we should look more into doing other things besides just jamming characters in speed sets. Obviously, some things need to outspeed some things. Obviously, some things need to be turn order, etc. But I have found myself just in TW and other like watching your guys' GACs. Just I wonder how much like Gungans, for example. Like, what's the difference between a 320 and a 335? If I can put my thing in an offense set.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really comes down to knowing how you're going to use a squad and knowing whether you're going over or under. And if you're going under, then I think there's really a conversation to be had about how the speed system works in this game. That like doesn't really matter whether you're 20 slower or 35 slower, because like fundamentally all the difference is saying is if you go like 50 turns into a match, then eventually they will like have theoretically lapped you or whatever. But
Oh
if you're
yeah, I
that
have these conversations with Tass a lot about how many turns, the difference in speeds, and how many turns that these will both have to take for one of them to take more turns.
I'm not out here saying that defense is like some miracle drug that like all you will farm all of the defensive hold dreams. Like I don't know. It's just like it's just a gut feeling that I'm chasing.
Yeah. I asked
I've
in
been
that spirit.
A long time believer in defense as like an underrated. Frankly, it's defense percent, yes, but even flat defense for particularly for characters who have a low native defense, like that flat stat is fantastic.
Or who have one of theirs that is like askew. So, for example, Raid Han, back in, I mean, he's not relevant today, but back when he was still relevant, I liked having some flat defense on him or JTR because that way they actually absorb more like special damage because they have reasonable armor, but the resistance
Yep.
is shit.
This is a tale
So-
for another time, but I'm also farming mods now with kind of an eye for what they might look like if we ever get the 7-dot system.
Oh wow, yeah,
I hope they buff
that's
flat
interesting in a
stats.
future I'm not ready for. A couple quick things. So one, I like on speed. So I generally agree with what Dagger was saying. I do think there's enough sort of depth and width to the game and how it's played now that it's not sort of the earliest days of whoever's fastest Darth Revan wins. And I think that's also mitigated a bit, like in the current meta and situations where there are TM crons, where like the main advantage of speed in certain cases, by no means all, but in certain cases is the first mover advantage. And a TM cron now, like for dark side, it can completely nullify that. The situation where like speed, again, an example in the current meta, still has a ton of importance, and I say this from brutal personal experience, is squads that have like the stun on special, where it doesn't need a perfect turn meter loop. It just needs to get going well enough so that each of their characters can take a special before your characters. And I go back to like one of the battles that I had with Aesop. It was his Bosk, Zam, Dengar. And part of that is Dengar's just going every other turn, but he had a very fast Zam, fast Bosk, and Bosk isn't a merc, but he's throwing out stuns left and right, and that certainly frustrated a counter. And similarly, he said a Saw Krex Luthen squad that had exceptionally high speed for Luthen was at 380 or something like that, and it caused a complete failure and essentially like a stun lock for my BKN, and a counter that otherwise was worked like 95% of the time failed miserably. So it's got its moments, but you're right. I don't think it's like the definitive attribute the way it used to be.
I also like how Datacrons allow you to toggle things on and off. I know Fatal's talked more about tenacity, potency than I have, but like the health, protection, potency, like you, depending on the set, like you can just and how much you want to reroll a cron, obviously, you can just build crons for teams as well, and a lot of the time, like crons are between crons and if crons ever start adding speed, right? Then maybe we have a con. I'm talking about the actual stats, right? The actual stats are adding speed, like level 9s and stuff do already. But until we start having another arms race, I feel like speed is less relevant, especially when we have a bajillion teams. Because if I have 5 teams and I can pick which one I'm going to take against your team, and one of them just ignores speed altogether, it's really easy.
The thing I'll say too, with regards to, you go first.
Well, it's just I like our discussion. First of all, this is good stuff. I'm trying to tease out a definitive, affirmative statement of where you see defense shining. Like I think of maybe a floor that we could all agree on would be, if nothing else, it replaces health as the default 2-piece maybe for any team on defense. Would that be a fair thing as a floor?
I think a defense set is better than a health set in like 90% of applications already.
Okay.
Here's how I put this.
Yeah.
We are in 2 Datacron sets that don't really offer you good or any defense stats at all, right? Aside from like Balin Cron.
Yes. Right.
We both Datacron sets, we have both a light side and dark side bulk active. We have light side crit avoidance 6 active, which doesn't fucking work correctly, but it's fine. Maybe someday it'll work correctly.
You're not
but
mad.
Yeah, it's not one of my like core wheelhouse stats that I always like to work at all. It's fine. And especially like you really want to talk about it is like how many bonus turn crons are we getting now? Like my Fulcrum, I have taken off all of her speed. I have taken off actually like a lot of her offense as well. And she is just fully slammed out on bulk stats because guess what?
Yep.
You have exactly 1 or 2 turns to kill her before she's gonna remax herself out. Like I'm going for full raid boss effect here. It helps that her Datacron like naturally rolled a bunch of offense, but that's or crit damage, but that's just that entire set, right? Like you're either getting like the worst case scenario is potency, tenacity, crit chance, etc., or like resistance pen. But whether you get like armor pen, I know is a little bit less effective for her, but it's still good. Offense, crit damage, like you have all of this offense budget taken up by the Datacron. Modding, I think, when Datacrons first came out, everyone was like, oh, this is going to replace modding. I've always kind of looked at them as like, A, I think that's incredibly wrong. B, they work in tandem. And so in a season where, historically, I think defense crons tend to be pretty popular on defense, we don't have access to that anymore. Like what? If you go 3 defense set with high defense secondaries, you're representing up to like 150% defense over like between a character who very much cares about it and very much does not. I feel like if you have level 3 effects like bulk, and then you give them that much extra defense, and then maybe you have like a semi-functional crit avoidance level 6 to boot, that can recontextualize some teams in a season that is like otherwise not really having that conversation, and that tends to throw a lot of people off. So like I don't know where the line, you're asking for hard answers, and I don't know exactly where my line.
Well, I'm asking where you're willing to draw a hard line in a gradient of options, right? There's a variety of increasingly hard stances you could take about the supremacy of defense mods, and I appreciate your caveats. Those are fair.
I agree that I don't really know. I look at health sets and I'm kind of just like scratching my head right now. Like obviously there are characters that have health scaling, and that's like yes, you look at that, you understand that.
Sure, take the free money and run. Yeah, but as a default now, maybe it's a bit passé because for years now, right? It was our default 2-piece if you didn't otherwise need something else. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the impact of it. I'm feeling fights that I'm engaging offensively. They're harder. Why? They've got defense mods on.
Yeah, I will say, like, so this is something that struck me early on with mods, and which is why, like, going back to when mods first rolled out, I was very interested in defense secondaries. I think people underestimate some of the simple math underneath it, in that, like, you take an example of, let's just say, a tank that is set that you want to be able to burn through on the opposing team. If that tank is, let's say, naturally, without sort of extra modding for defense, is at a 60% physical defense, and assume all attacks against it are physical for these purposes. If you throw defensive mods onto that tank and you take that tank to 80%, most people say, well, okay, yeah, so you're adding 20% of defense. You're not. You are doubling and in fact, cutting in half the effective damage that tank is taking against physical offense, because
Yeah, it
somebody
was
else comes
taking
in.
40, now it's taking 20.
Exactly. Somebody that, prior to defense mitigation is doing 100K, would have been doing 40, and they're now doing 20, as Dagger said. It is a much larger practical impact than you would expect. And then where to do it, like to your point, Tass, of like, okay, well, when do you just throw everything else out the window? Fatal had a great example with ATF, because they certainly trade off speed
Yeah.
for
An
that.
Yeah,
unintuitive choice. An unintuitive choice. I
I've
don't
been
think most would
haranguing.
think to
Well,
do it.
one more
Ask
quickly
Task. I've
before
been
handing off.
haranguing people since that cron came out that you want to bulk her out, and that is like the really only good way to do it because they kill her first.
Yeah, I'll tell you one other character that's just like an example, kind of like that. OG Mando. There was a period of time, I haven't looked in a long time, but there
Bulk
was
and
a
crit
period of
damage.
time where I had the OG Mando that had, like, by far the most defense in the game, and he sucked at almost everything else except he would survive, and that was the one thing that I cared about, was that he'd get there and he'd do his one trick, and I'd be delighted that he got his mission accomplished. Those are the types of things where it became obvious, but, like, I think it's just generally applicable. So I'm 100% with Fatal, like, that it is, like, it is worth a broad effort of farming and just sort of upscaling
Yeah.
defense.
All right, we
The
stand
closest
for
thing I think
defense here.
the closest thing you'll get to a definitive statement is defense is better than health a majority of the time.
The reason why I give so many caveats is because there are matchups where,
Yeah.
yeah,
One thing I will
No,
also add
I
too is
appreciate it.
one thing
That's
I'll
why I
also
was
do
trying
really
to
quick
find
is
that floor, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
new characters, especially new tanks, are generally more bulk oriented than armor oriented. See, like Ninth Sister. A lot of the old tanks have much higher armors and resistances than the newer tanks because the newer tanks are designed to go to high relics. So if you look at the rest of the other characters, thanks TJ Hawk, but yeah, we love him and adore him.
Yeah, we'll get his comments. Yeah, TJ had
Yeah.
he clued us in. He'd have to be taken off here about an
Yeah.
hour into the show, so that's all good.
Yeah, but one thing I will say is defense will continue to get better as well because like your support characters want some amount of defense frequently. Your attackers who don't need like a potency small set will likely want a defense. Like you're just going to start seeing patterns as you start relicking people up more that you're going to want damage compression over health, especially as we start seeing more things like off balance and things like expose already existed for health percent damage. We're seeing new and interesting ways to do health percent damage to characters. So I think if you haven't spent any time on defense mods, you should. And if you have spent time on defense mods, you should probably spend a little bit more.
We
if I
stand for
can-
defense here.
if I can counterbalance the one thing, I try to keep an eye on CG themselves and like look for trends. And if there's one trend that I can call it from latter half of 2024, Balin basically deletes all defense from your squad. Technically, Riva also had this identity as well. Past that, it's like we see squads like General Syndulla, and I think maybe possibly Ahsoka as well has some manner of like the OG stat defense ignore. That like it's happening with tenacity as well, where like we see CG kind of taking up arms against
Yeah,
tenacity.
X
They're
effect
giving
that can't be
potency double
resisted.
value.
Yeah.
That if there's one thing that I'm definitely looking at, because I'm going super hard on defense farming right now, but like if the winds change, that it seems like no, this is a trend that CG is kind of seeing as well, that defense is super impactful in trying to counteract it. Yeah, this is the sort of stuff I'm keeping an eye on, is how much defense ignore armor shred spam are we seeing in new teams? Because that would be one way that, like, well, that would be a concern. But then also at the point, I don't know what the end game is, because it's not like, well, we just go back to health, because health isn't that good. So yeah,
Yeah, to add on to that, Fatal, as well, like, I mean, we're in this environment now where, like, I'm desperately using up all of my, good defensive mods, because it's not a, defense is not a stat in the Datacron sets that are available, but armor pen and resistance pen are. So I kind of feel like, a little extra vulnerable. And I know this is just a temporary meta, but I do wonder if it's a matter of, like, they have heard, I'm sure, the rumblings in the community about how people feel about 400% defense datacrons. They don't tend to go over well. They're probably a half step above dodge on everybody's Christmas list. So, yeah, maybe they're doing what they can to mitigate it, but
the one thing
I still
I'll
believe
toss
it.
on,
Yeah.
the one thing I'll toss on to what you just said is, I still don't think that armor pen crons are effective solutions to defense. They sure as shit don't hurt. But because of the nature, right? It's like if someone says, okay, I'm gonna grab this strength attacker and give them like a god armor pen cron, and I know you're like top 8 or whatever, that you're dealing probably with way more min-max stats than I'm seeing or whatever. But like I don't I've never really been one to like do the defense to armor conversions and all that to know what the exact numbers usually are. But we do know pretty easily how much armor pen you're getting from, like, an armor pen cron that, like, if a character's got 150 and you have something like God roll 400% cron, that's still a number that isn't going to
That's still 600. That's still 600 armor pen, which is something like 18 to 22% penetration of actual defense.
Yeah, it's depending on whatever the character they're going up against and how much defense they have modded. If you heavily invest in defense, I don't think it necessarily gets beaten by a God roll armor pen cron.
I honestly think a defense small set offsets most armor pen crons.
Well, I was going to say, guys, like, if nothing else, it's just intuitive then that it's still going to be just a better default as a 2-piece over health for however many years we've been doing that.
To Fatal's point that he's tried to drive home a few times, I think you're going to lean defense initially on most characters, but there will be characters that want health due to scaling,
Sure.
due to armor mitigation. And honestly, at some point, you may just want a tenacity small set or potency small set. I think.
Yeah, and if you know that, for example, the other thing that jumps immediately to mind is if the meta favors a counter to whatever team you're modding that involves true damage, then yeah, go back to health, because that's your only defense.
Yeah, I do think I think a better definitive statement to make is not necessarily an affirmative to defense, but it is a regression from health. I think health is becoming less important as a small set than all the other ones, because I find myself wanting to farm more crit chance mods, not because I need more crit chance mods per se, but just because I'd rather have the crit chance set with like crit chance secondaries to get the extra 20% crit chance on a special damage dealer than a health set.
Fair. Okay, well, hey, I appreciate you guys going down that
really
rabbit
quick,
hole.
I know that crit chance only adds 8% as a set, but like the set plus like the secondaries. I just want to be clear that when I said 20%, that's usually what I'm shooting for.
No, yeah, I could already hear the YouTube comment coming. Stupid dagger. So, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Look, man,
From user Tastnex.
That's right. From you, hey, shut up. Why would you out me like that? I haven't even done it yet. Damn it. Can't have anything nice. All right. No, but thanks, guys, for following me down that rabbit hole. I don't want to keep us jammed here forever, especially because Fatal wanted to highlight one more fight. Now, before we show this, he's going to showcase a Finn versus Gungans. Very excited to see it. I will say that I used Finn on offense twice last week, both against trench teams. And I'll tell you this much, won't be sticking with it reliably. In the first instance, my resistance hero Finn got low before I was able to recover, and we closed out the fight for 57. I thought I'd found something just rock solid, right? Went back in the next round, same fight, same cron, approached it the same way. And yeah, no, if that Django gets to close out your resistance hero Finn with that rocket, That's it. Because I tried to stick it out and put punishment down on Trench, who had health tech. So, the odds were kind of against me there. But I was trying to saw through him, and it did not go down. So, yeah, that's it. Let's go ahead and hit play.
I thought you said you were using Finzori.
Yeah, I did. Finn,
Yeah, are
Zori,
you trying to
Resistance
use-
Hero Finn. And my
Yeah, why are you trying
Resistance
to
Hero
saw it
Finn
then?
died?
Why are you trying to saw it then?
I don't like you.
Anyway, going as a week, this wasn't really supposed to be some like super deep dive. It's just
Yeah.
I've been doing this fight all season. I will say it is actually losable, but only specifically like if you get Deathmark, and then like probably mostly just if they have Phalanx to do a bunch of assists on that Deathmark.
Mhm.
But part of what all that really drives this counter is you have 3 characters with cleanses that you are just constantly stripping yourself clean of those debuffs, and then you just have inevitable attrition on the generator over time. You have Zori constantly dispelling Phalanx to reopen it back up. And then, yeah, you're just constantly going back and forth. I think this is actually like one fight where I came like decently close to losing a character. Like, I see a lot more Tarpals lately, but this team doesn't really tend to care about Tarpal's damage, and I think this did end up being a fight with Deathmark, with Phalanx assists almost doing the damn thing. So yeah, I'm not out here saying like, yeah, 100% counter. Is just like, I don't know, if you're looking, or if you have a spare Zori sitting around, you've got other teams doing other stuff.
So if you weren't doing this, are you part of the, shambling mass of us doing BKM here? Or what would you otherwise be doing? Like, does this free up your BKM for some interesting application on defense? Or what were you doing there?
BKM is not really a defense squad. It's just, I don't know. She's got a decent range of offensive options that, like, I don't think Gungans really pose that much of a threat at this point. That I'm not really too worried about, like, saving a squad like BKM for that. So this to me is just like, I don't know. It's kind of like if anyone does, like, if you see a double Rex squad, sometimes you just bad batch. It's very much in that same vein of like, this is technically a losable fight, but on average, I can just like skill check it out, and I'm happy to take the cheap kill for it just for the hell of it.
Fair. Do you think? So you're mostly just dancing around the Phalanx here. Do you think that Tarpals or Bombardier might be a tech against this?
No, one of the only real ways that you can lose this is Phalanx doing a bunch of assists on a character with Deathmark. If you're someone like your Finn isn't.
See, here's your Deathmark
bulk.
you were talking about, and then you just cleansed it. Okay.
Yeah, like literally this entire fight, all I'm doing is I'm looking at the debuffs on my team, and then I'm looking for the Jar Jar Deathmark animation, and then I'm looking for whether or not I've got a Deathmark on, and whether or not, like, death is potentially impending. But yeah, the rest of the time you just slam cleanses to try to mitigate it. It's not a very finesseful fight in that sense. It's just like
patient fight. Yeah.
Keep cycling Zori stealth.
So you're about a minute and a half left on the clock at this point. We just saw Jar Jar go down. What's the stat profile on the Kron you used here?
I think I just grabbed like 30% protection and might have some health on it. It's not really
not damage focus in any way. Yeah.
No.
It's a control fight.
This is a fight that can kind of run down on time if you're spending too much time thinking. I haven't had it go on time yet, but I've had like multiple fights end with like 10 seconds left.
Okay, dig that.
This is a fight where like it's a volume of fight turn, right? You need to take like 80 turns to kill them. And so the more time you're like sitting there trying to think, it's like, no, just fucking push buttons. Just keep cleansing yourself. Keep whacking the generator. Keep attritioning down boss fast. And then Jar Jar gives himself to you eventually.
Okay. Completely unrelated to 3v3, but do you think the Zori team has a chance in 5v5 as well?
I might have been playing it. I can check my insight real quick.
In 5v5, it feels like Resistance is capable of some surprising stuff. I would imagine next meta, it's still going to be able to take out like Treya squads.
Yeah, I mean, it also has taken out some GLs in the past, like without fancy data crowns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly curious because you mentioned the death mark being the problem, and if there's 5 of them, I imagine death mark is a significantly bigger problem.
Yeah, it makes sense. A lot of people to hammer that.
Yeah.
Or Gungans to handle it.
Oh, this is my defense. God, sorry. I'm sorry. I was so confused with the results I saw. I was like, man, apparently I tried to use Zori against Gungans last season with a C3PO and it failed. Like, what the? Anyway, so what I would say is Gungans and Zori are actually like 2 birds of a feather that they both just have to throw away crucial synergy in 3v3. That's kind of why this fight's so amusing to me. Is it's just like 2 teams meekly limping against each other for like 4 minutes and then you win. Do I think it'll win? I'm trying to like stall as I frantically type in teams so I can see what I've done. Okay, it looks like I usually on average win. I have like a 70% win rate. Or no, I have 2 wins, 1 loss.
Okay. It can
Against
be
Gungan
done. Yeah.
No. I lost against Gungan Kron, and then I won after Gungan Kron expired.
Oh, okay.
So, like,
Okay. Yeah. All right. Then you got some.
that paints a better picture. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Probably fine.
All right, guys. That wraps up our meta-analysis section. Let's jump right in to favorite attack and defense of the week. Let me go ahead and pull up my GG. Where is it? Is it over here? Yeah, it's over here. Now, I want to say something attack-wise was cool. Yeah. Why does it say 54? I thought that was higher. Didn't you watch me get a 57 on that, Sasha? I guess not. What was it? It was sticking right out at me. I forgot about it. Give me a second. I mean, as far as lessons learned, you saw the Balin thing. Yeah, there it is right there. And there's my Sir Malicos Starkiller failing the same team. Same Kron that won for me in the next round. But, yeah. Boy, did I hate that. Let's see. Where is that fight?
So, Task, my screen is showing your stream pause, by the way. I'm not sure if that's an issue for everybody else.
It shouldn't be like that. No.
Yeah. There we go.
Thanks for mentioning that, because I do want you to be able to see. Let's see there. Yeah, that wasn't it.
Whenever his stream is paused like that, it means that he's doing something else.
Yeah,
so all that time he spent berating us for playing video games while we're doing this.
No, I just had the
you can
OBS
lie to us all you
minimized on
want,
my
man.
second
You
monitor.
can lie to us all you want. It's okay.
Yeah, this is it. Hey, this would have been... So JKL against Malgus isn't new, but it is something that I have not been doing a lot of. And, I've got on paper everything I needed, but I happen to have 2 defense primaries on this Hoda. And so immediately at battle start, as you might expect, Malgus took a good look at Hoda and told him to go. And so he went. And we still got the fight done. And that's really the takeaway, is that, having now put him in some protection primaries, he's much more robust for this week. This would have almost assuredly been a 56-57, had he lived.
I recommend R9ing your Hoda.
Eventually.
Mine is still like Relic 7, one of these. Or, no, not even 7, it's Relic 5.
Very fair.
One of these years, I will get him to where he needs to be to not be a good liability.
Getting one-shotted, yeah. Now,
I still remember my Hoda getting whirlwinded by, not whirlwinded, but the buzzsawed by GG, right? You kill something and then GG goes, and your Hoda's gone. It's like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, this DTMG versus Afra, if it's the full Afra team, double Omicrons and all, DTMG is like 57. You throw Dengar in there, it is almost assuredly a 54, so there is some value there. Defensively, I don't think I had a lot of super interesting action. So yes, I did do the 25% turn meter with my Great Mothers on defense. Delighted to say it did block out somebody's Darth Revan. yeah, Fulcrum was here with Hu Yang in round one, and I honestly don't think that this was going to work regardless for a one shot, this slacker. But glad to see that it didn't work. This disappoints me though. I have failed with Bane versus Leia, and yeah, when I saw this, I resolved to put down a set 18 with high health on the stat instead of going, bulk level 3, which obviously giving us less value in 3 versus 3. But I thought maybe the Riposte level 6 was interesting on this cron. Turns out for Bane, not really. I mean, 55 is better than 50, or 54 is better than 55, 56, 57, though, so we'll take that. And yeah, people just, I don't know what that was with Zombie. All right, that's enough for me. Dagger, anything you wanted to highlight?
I mean,
Did you win, son?
I would say the best attacks and defense are from playing COD Zombies this week. And
Amen to that. That's been fun.
And none of them are repeatable on this show.
It's true. It's true.
So
yeah, Fatal, I don't think that's your scene, but if it ever was, man, look us up because we, I want to say I've been bitten by the bug, but I've been bitten by the undead shambler, and I'm infected, and I can't stop.
Look, man, I've been a Zombies enjoyer in the past, and I wouldn't say I've played Call of Duty the last 3 or 4 years, but Black Ops 2 was one of the best that I had played a few past that time.
If you're inclined, man, I don't know if it's still on sale, but I'll say this much. I hadn't played a Call of Duty game, really, honest to God. I haven't purchased one since Call of Duty 2, Xbox Call of Duty.
For me, it was Call of Duty 4 on PS2.
And so I got convinced by a friend to pick it up just to play Zombies. And I swear, hands up, honest engine here. I have not played anything else but Zombies on that game. I played one mission of campaign when I first turned it on, and then I backed out of it and played Zombies, and it's been Zombies ever since.
I've heard the campaign's actually also quite solid.
I hear it's good. I've got nothing to say against the game writ large. I'm saying that I still haven't broken out of the hardcore addiction to killing hordes of the undead.
And reviving me.
And reviving me. I think it's mostly reviving you with killing undead in between, if I'm being honest. All right,
so right now is I'm thoroughly. It took me a month. It didn't even take me. It's just I didn't have any friends or family get interested in Marvel Rivals, but now that people are showing up, it's oh no.
Oh, I've been seeing you stream it, and it looks like a great game. Just having spent so much time and effort, and also, frankly, just having so many skins and whatever unlocked in Overwatch, I'm just disinclined to play a game of the same type, even if it is a better game. And I've been hearing a lot of folks saying that. But
it is a alternate universe Overwatch that
Loki's also dumb.
Loki's a cool character.
No, he's cool. I love him. He's dumb, good, silly. You jump between your different shadows.
Yeah, the game just takes a different philosophy on balance that. Overwatch is a competitively balanced game, and Rivals kind of is not.
It's more about the fun, the experience of it. Mm-hmm.
More or less. I mean, it does seem to have a competitive scene, so I'm not denigrating it in that way, but they do things that in Overwatch are wait, that's fucked up, or so to get I'm not gonna do all this, but I was a Widow in Overwatch, and Black Widow is the worst character in Marvel Rivals right now, or has the lowest win rate, and the weird contradiction is the character has damage issues or whatever, or identity issues. But everything else, aside from the part where you shoot people, is stuff that Overwatch took away from you, would not let you do. They wouldn't let you quick scope. They made the grapple cooldown super, super long. Because Widowmaker in Overwatch is an oppressive as fuck character. She was always going to be that. I knew that shit was coming since day one. In Marvel Rivals, she's the worst character in the game, but also, the moment that they buff that character, it's a better Widowmaker in every way. People dive me, and I can just assassinate them if I know what I'm doing and hit my shit.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Rivals, I was so willing and ready to just blow it off as an Overwatch knockoff, but Overwatch has kind of become a knockoff of itself in some ways. That
Fair.
It's an open
I'm
play.
not in love with Overwatch. Like it's not like I'm playing a ton of Overwatch instead. It's that just having played so much Overwatch, I'm not feeling the call, so to speak. But I am feeling the call of duty, as it were.
Yes.
See. But anyways, guys, back on task. I'll cover TJ's.
Sorry, I derailed
here.
us. I haven't. Unexciting GAC leads to me caring more about other stuff.
Yes, thank you
It's
for
a good ass time
dragging
for games,
us.
man. It's a good ass time for games.
It is. There have been a lot of great games in the last year or so. So not complaining. Good times. All right. Let me read out TJ's comments here for his favorite defense. He says Sasha nailed it. That General Syndulla, Exile Ezra, and Sabine, Padawan Sabine, with the Padawan Sabine Kron, did amazing work for me in all 3 rounds. Let me see if I can find that. Let's have a brief review there. No, they must have cut through it and I just skipped over. I don't know. Dark Hug. Oh, Dark Hug. That's a fun opponent. No, it wasn't there. Did he not set it? Or am I looking at the week? I'm probably looking at the week prior like a dodo. There it is. CLS, DTMG, Qui-Gon, Malgus, BKM, GG, Mother Talzin, Dash, all skunked on this General Syndulla. Now, you do have to commit as Exile Ezra to it to get that kind of result. I did that, and it did get a hold for me round 1. Some guy had the mind to try gas against it, and I've seen other players pull it off. When they do pull it off, it's something like a 48. I wouldn't really recommend the experience. Okay, so fair enough on that defense. His favorite attack, he wants to highlight here in round 3. It was a fail, but Iden with Snowtrooper and the Snowtrooper Kron versus a Saw Luthen Kyle Katarn with Riposte. Let's see that here. Let's head on down. There it is. All right, there it is. 1 minute, 5 seconds. Let's take a look at the Kron. He had turn meter level 3. Damage immunity, level 6. Okay. Snowtrooper, level 9. And some decent armor penetration on there. Okay. And let's see, what did he say? I was in a full turn meter loop and basically had them right where I wanted them. And one mistake, I lost. But it was so good, I took Snowtrooper to Relic 8 because it's a lot of fun. So he thinks he had a user error issue and might be cleaner looking for next week. I wonder if if you were going to try and block that, if it's Kyle or Krex. I'm seeing a lot of Krex these days in with Saw. Okay, that's enough. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I have a strong opinion on this.
Please.
It's not even my opinion. Go look. If anybody is curious, go look at the insight data for Saw Gerrera with Captain Rex. Mm-hmm. It might surprise you. If you are interested in posting Saul Luthen at all, the data right now. Well, okay. If you are planning on posting a wide defense, because Saul corrects Luthen absolutely has counters that if you're not applying sufficient pressure elsewhere, it won't matter. But if you are applying enough pressure elsewhere, Saw corrects Luthen is kind of a gemstone of defense right now because it does not trade as cheaply as you might think it would now that the Datacrons are gone. That I will bat for that team. That again, it needs support. Like people will just fucking trade that or whatever they're gonna do if you just leave it out solo. But if those teams are accounted for elsewhere, yeah, that shit does hit differently.
Fair. Okay. All right, Sasha, how about you? We've been leaving you for dead for a little while over there in the corner.
No worries. Yeah.
What you got to say?
The defense that I'd call out, and it was fun. I got to see it in action once in the ASA match. Was actually an Iden, Storm, and Range Trooper. And shout out to Dagger, who, when we first looked at Datacrons, had mentioned that Range Troopers 9 Katazai, it just it ramps to 200% offense, crit damage. I think it's 10% per critical hit and armor pen, and you can get some nice survivability with grit. and then I have a level 3 there. The other thing that I'll add, back to our conversation on defense and armor pen, one advantage the range trooper has as a physical damage dealer is a high base armor pen. So 200% actually brings his raw armor pen over 1,000, which is pretty darn significant. So you have the ability to do a meaningful amount of damage, but the big difference there, which did not translate into success, it actually translated into a ton of frustration for me watching it at the horrible RNG and who my squad targeted. But when Aesop brought, I do think that would probably stop Wampa, or at least have a shot at it. And yeah, maybe not, but it at least make it interesting. And against an AdRad squad, I think it just depends on who they target, because the reality, it takes AdRad a while to be able to get through them when the exposes aren't doing anything or aren't doing nearly as much. So yeah, that was one that I set, not the result that I wanted, but having had a chance to watch it, I do realize a lot of that result came down to targeting RNG. It just failed to go for AdRad and stayed on Jin too much. But a defense that I liked. On offense, I think we already touched on the stuff I was interested in.
Before we jump to that offense real quick, I just want to say, remember watching that fight? Yeah, I agree with you completely. The Cassian got brapped out real quick, and then they just chose to focus Jin. At any point, they could have given Radis the hose, and that was completely up the creek for him. But yeah. They just chose to be dumb. So that's reliable, I guess, because it's whatever team you're fighting with this, it seems random that they choose to go after Radis. Like, you're really unlucky if they do. More often than not, they choose to be dumb and go after her. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's weighted because of weakest targeting, I think. Not guaranteed, but weighted.
Yeah, not guaranteed, because she's always weaker than my Radis. She's always weaker, but they don't always target her.
Weighted, but not exclusively. I think there's some probability, and maybe it's a 15% thing, like, like the potency tenacity, whether a debuff lands, maybe there's at least a 15% chance of variation. But I agree there's weighted. That's why they took out Cassian first. I suspect Cassian was weaker even than Jin. And yeah, I think if there had been a taunting tank, just given the damage that was being dealt, the tank would have melted anyway. It would have been the same thing.
Makes sense.
On offense, the only thing I was going to call out really quickly was, with that DR counter to Great Mothers being out there, it leaves us in.
Looking at?
Aesop.
Oh, okay.
The same one. But if you go to my attacks, it's the JKL one. And it's just the issue, and I totally understand where Aesop was coming from. But, he wanted to be able to hold DRBSF Malik to take on Great Mothers when he's got Malgus in his pocket. He decided to set it. And I don't think it's a bad choice given what he had left, but the reality is, and he did say he was hoping to draw JKL, Jedi Knight Cal as well, and then some third, and get Cal off, and then my offensive options with Jedi are a little bit limited. I didn't need Cal. You just don't. I mean, Mace was important. I think it allowed me to get Talon out of stealth, and there was an opening leap by Malgus that was a little nerve-wracking, but other than that, it turns around pretty smoothly. So yeah, it's just tough to compensate for the loss of DR and Malik off that Malgus squad.
Completely agree. All right, thanks for sharing that. Fatal, how about you? Favorite attack and defense of the week? It sounds like there's quite a few contenders in there.
There are a few that I could shout out, but I think if I'm forced to only pick one, it would be kind of the follow-up to last week. I said what I was planning to do, and then I ended up doing it, and it worked. For offense, it was seen on Bane against Ahsoka. I felt as if Ahsoka had some core flaws. I think I did. I don't know if I got to do it all 3 rounds, but I got to do it whenever I saw it. I think I did it round 1 and round 3.
What conditions do you look for there, Fatal? I watched, I saw at least one of them, and even your R9 Scion disappeared pretty quickly, and Set melted as well, but you still seemed pretty well off.
So literally all that's happening here is I'm linking Sabine, and then Ezra is doing all of his percent health damage. My Scion had 4 protection primaries, but I audited him, and his protection, or his secondaries were not great. It like wasn't much protection or defense, and it actually had some health. Yeah, literally, all this setup is doing is just saying, okay, if I cut Bane, then I can't ignore Taunt, but I'll just shut off Sabine, and then I can tank through Ezra doing his bullshit. The Exile on the side doesn't matter. And then, yeah, just get to ult and reverse sweep them and save Bane for whatever else your heart desires. I did bump up I did actually give protection and armor targets on C and set this week that will, we'll see if there's a notable quality difference for Scion to try to strong arm the 120% health.
So make this make sense to me in that you can't instantly defeat people, right? Like with Exile Ezra, light side allies can't be defeated while he's alive, right? So what gives? Why does this work?
Do you still have that VOD link open? You could just like 2x to it real quick.
When you say 2x, you're meaning your ult 1 and then you're getting around to a second ult and
No, I'm saying you could literally see the fight right now if you have my stream VOD.
Yeah.
I was saying, like, play it on 2x speed.
Where we at with that? You is that early in the fight? Hold on.
Probably early in the VOD.
Okay, hold on.
Technically, you can look at the match history and then, like,
technically, I could. There it is. I see our old man. Haha, see our old man. Get it? Yeah.
I don't know if there's a reason why Scion's getting...
Let me pull it back.
Like, it seems like Scion always gets hit first. Also, this is, like, a better example because Scion got hit much harder here. The first time that I ran this, he took like 2 hits from Ezra to get there. This one, he went down pretty rapidly, so, like, this was the higher pressure scenario of the two. But yeah, it's all this really comes down to is knowing the interaction that Sith Eternal Emperor, his second iteration, his second identity has its own unique cooldown on Link. So Ahsoka can ult you and be like, haha, I have maxed out your cooldowns, and then you push the shiny gold button and be like, I'm a new person. New me, new Link. Okay, and then Ezra, because he is so smart, taunts. And then you're like, well, okay, I'm just gonna link you both now. Farewell. This is kind of what I was trying to get at last week on the show. Is I think Sith Eternal Emperor kind of just can fundamentally shut down Ezra's Omicrons, or in this case, like if you're worried about Ezra, like right now I'm running Scion and Set, and that is my cheapest and no spend. If I really wanted to shut off Ezra's Omicrons, you can tech in Malgus if you're running like DR against Grey Mothers. You can tech in Enoch if you're, not posting that squad. And he just won't crit you. He won't do any of that percent health damage. You probably don't lose a character.
So you just stacked mastery by taking enough turns to the point that you transformed and zapped, and it wasn't instant defeat. It was just overwhelming force.
It wasn't instant defeat. It was just immediate defeat.
Yeah, I'm literally saying the instant defeat effect cannot happen. So you just did lethal damage on the first storm, lightning storm.
Yeah, and I will say too that like the first time that I did that fight, the AoE didn't zap both of them. That it took a while to grind it out, but Sith Eternal's damage is just high enough that he doesn't really give a shit. And because you've got Link on the damage dealers, they just have no real way to kill you. That it's just a forced stalemate. So really my approach to this counter is I'm just using 2 R9 defense and protection loaded tanks to make up for the fact that I don't have an Omicron on Ezra. To make up for the fact that I'm not shutting down Ezra's Omicrons, that I'm just like raw face tanking it this way. Again, like a percent health resistant tank or a crit immune tank. Like, tackle Ezra however you want, but if you deny him doing that damage and Link is on Sabine, the team just cannot touch you. And you're just guaranteed the attritional win. Pass, you might be muted.
Here I was thinking he was in just stunned contemplation.
Oh crap! I forgot that I had my mic muted. My bad. Before I moved on from this, first of all, thank you, Fatal. Second, I wanted to highlight this because you're talking about decoupling C Bane from going against Ahsoka. You can get it done with just C, and I wanted to highlight here how Zid got it done with just Bane. So Bane Talon here on screen. He's got a set 18.
No Ezra though, right?
Sorry.
Is there an Ezra there?
There is no Ezra there, and I do mean to
That's a
point that
difference.
out. I do mean to point that out. So a lot of people are doing the Exile Ezra with Rey, and if they're doing that, then it's not here with Ahsoka, and here you're seeing it, a 55. And if you could do this with Talon being Talon being here, I don't think makes a huge difference. Maybe there's a one-shot risk from Padawan Sabine, but I doubt it. In any case, Fulcrum is a serious contender for this season. And it was a fine cron that I had set down, and it did not matter. So, just wanted to highlight that one real quick. Piggybacking off of you there, Fatal. All right, that just about closes things up for Best Attack and Defense of the Week. Takeaways and final thoughts, guys. All right, heading into week 3, I'll be honest with you. The losses this week caused me to change up some datacrons, change up a bunch of modding. So everything, the teams of mine that lost on offense, faster, higher armor, more protection, should be more reliable. I modded for higher reliability this week. Not necessarily greatest offense or greatest speed, unless that was in service to reliability. As far as going through the rest of the week goes, I've been rather light on defense this season relative to how I like to do it because, again, I'm just not trying to get caught flat-footed, and that worked better for me in week 1 than it did in week 2. I've got the history to show that I'm looking light, so I'm thinking to lean heavy. That's enough for me. Dagger, how about you? How do you intend to beat up on Erodiums this week?
The same way you do.
Fair. Yeah, use
sitting
one
on their
character
chest.
per team, like a G, 59 banners.
No, but I'll share.
The most substantive question for you, just if you could start with this, please, Dagger, did you sign up for GAC this week?
I am signing up for it right now.
You were too late.
Please
No,
tell me you're
sign
kidding.
up. I did sign up.
All right, good. All right, good. Congrats on the week.
Yeah.
I'm so proud.
I checked. I was checking, and it says set defenses. All right, I'm in. I'm in.
All right. Well, I'll cover TJ then here. His takeaway.
Oh, so we're just skipping?
Well, Dagger's-
You actually have something
Dagger's
useful. Oh, well, go by all means.
Man, just remember, I have the ability to remove you from this voice chat.
I have the ability to put myself back. You have no meaningful power here.
That's fair. No, I was gonna say the just from talking to everyone who is who we generally talk to in Kyber 1, top 200, whatever. Man, there's a lot of people. You echoed it. There's a lot of, I shouldn't say scrambling to remod because that's not really the right way to phrase it. There are a lot of people learning really fast without defense crons this week that bulk primaries with offense secondaries, like Fatal's been kind of preaching, are the future of this game. Mm-hmm. Have fun with that knowledge, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let me rattle off TJ's takeaway here. He says, the go wide defense feels correct, and the scheme team called this out well. Creating questions or new puzzles about what you have on offense creates great gaps in what could be a one-shot board, now becoming a hard fail. Excited to see what problems or puzzles we can and what that does to tax your opponent. Off meta feels like it's here if you're willing to take a risk. So I think Fatal would largely agree with that, but we'll cover him in a moment. Sasha, how about you? Your takeaway?
So nothing major, no major changes that I made going into the week. But I'll tell you one thing that I'm a little disappointed with is that um, we Gungans are so vulnerable on D right now, and I'm not seeing a like even a particularly like unique high calling for them on offense, and that kind of bums me out a little. I was hoping that there might be a good use, but a few of the potential targets that I'd considered, the numbers just don't look good. So maybe it's this week continue to try and explore for an opportunity to use them, but yeah, not that thrilled with it. The only other thing that I'll add is that just to follow up on something I mentioned I did, I think like 2 weeks ago, just spare armies, and I put it on Admiral Akbar and Princess Leia, and Aesop did me the honor of allowing me to watch my squad for, I think it was 18 seconds. As it was obliterated. Of course, I knew it was going to be obliterated by an Iden squad, but I thought he might set Iden. And anyway, still trying to find a use for those, even with Rebel Riposte being a thing. But yeah, that's it. I actually, all that being said, I'm having a lot of fun in this meta. I think there's some fun pieces to play with. Where's Ezra? Where are Great Mothers? How are a variety of different things being utilized? It feels pretty healthy and stimulating. So I'm having fun with that.
There's a very specific scene from Pulp Fiction with Bruce Willis with the gimp suit. And I imagine that you watching Aesop fight your defense is basically just what happened to the black guy there, except you have a mirror to watch it.
You okay? No.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But yeah, I definitely knew that was unfortunately a throwaway team, but I had to do it kind of on I felt a need to do it on principle. I'm like, through the Amazon. So yeah, I've had the experience not getting in that suit again. Thanks, Sam.
How would Task phrase it? I don't have to thank you for the experience.
That's right. That's right. That's fine. You got to kick the shit out of me, and I had to watch it. I don't have to thank you for the experience. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Fatal, last but not least, your takeaways for week 3, your last thought for the people.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything this season went to plan, but I'm kind of split into two halves right now. Where, like, on the one hand, I made a plan that I figured wouldn't I know this season, then I was kind of willing to just coast it out. But there were aspects of it that I knew could, like, lead to some really goofy final forms, and I know there are some teams that are just, like, not trading the way that I would prefer. But yeah, to kind of mirror what was being said before, this is a pretty good metaphor off season that, like, there's a cascade of, I do see with non-Bane that lets me Bane this other squad, that lets me not jail this other squad, that lets me trade this other squad, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe I could actually, like, post 7 or 8 GL and not hate life for it. But then at the same time, I know how I would punish that if I were an opponent, and so it's like, it's grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory, and it's like, I told myself I wasn't going to lose this season, so my defense is wrecking people. I should probably just let it continue to do that, but I might do some weird shit this last week just to satisfy my urges. Who the hell knows?
All right.
I'm built to do it, at the very least.
Okay, good. We will all be watching. We will watch your career with great interest. And before I go ahead and wrap us up here, as the only other content creator on the show, where can the good folks find you, Fatal?
Twitch.tv/PlaybookTV. I might be doing some Omega testing soon. I'm not sure. Everyone's going on about the whole cooldown thing, but
the whole what thing?
Cooldown reduction. Sorry, am I like spoiling?
No. I understand. You're not stepping on a toe or nothing. You're fine. But yeah. I mean, if you're going to be testing with it, we'll be watching, to be sure. All right. Anything else you had to say, though?
Nope.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys know where I'm usually streaming, I did have to do a couple streams on Discord this week, but those VODs are up on YouTube, so if you were missing me, that's where to find them. Otherwise, I generally am streaming live on twitch.tv/Tassinix. This show, Plotting and Scheming, is of course on Spotify. In the description for every episode, there is a link that you can plug into any podcast program that you prefer to follow us. But otherwise, it is rebroadcast over to Google Podcasts and YouTube. My YouTube, Tassinix Gaming, is a site where you can find all of my previous GAC VODs with chapters added for easy browsing, in addition to some other great Swugger-related content that I think you'll love, like the Datacron set guides, the mod guides, and the GAC Omicron tier list, just to name a few. But yeah, that's all over there on the YouTube. And of course, if you've enjoyed the show, I did create a Cash App here at you guys' request. That is $Tassinix. And if you want to get something back and join my Patreon community, you can get enhanced scouting tools to raise your Grand Arena game, early access to Plotting and Scheming, early access to the Datacron set guides, and of course, the opportunity to chill with me on Discord in the patron section, pick my brain all day about this game, or come along and just play zombies. But yeah, you'll have to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest for you. At $5 a month, you enter the VIP access level, where you get the aforementioned early access to Plotting and Scheming, the Datacron set guides, and all the other good stuff. Of course, thank you so much to Andrew, Arj, Deadpool Kyle 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Johnny B. Ottawa, Miasmal, Mus Ross, Ray's Malbus, Sam Vimes, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens14, White Wolf, and Zoltre. Moving on up to the $10 a month tier is VIP Access Plus, where you get a Patreon bundle to me and to OmegaBot. If you're watching my streams, at the start of each one, I pull an OmegaBot report on my opponent. Anybody can get a report showing the last 2 weeks of history, but patrons can pull an HTML version of the report that allows you to take more than just the last 2 weeks. And with that downloadable report version, you can click the links in it to go right to swugga.gg or Insight, get the details on the matchups you're interested in, shave a bunch of time off your scalp. Thank you so much to Stryker, Esh Sotnikam, and Dobby. At VIP Access Premium, that is the $15 a month double bot bundle, so Patreon access to me, to OmegaBot, and to Hot Utils, the #1 tool for your mass mod management and loadout creation. A couple clicks moves you between your Grand Arena, TB, TW, and Raid mods. You can use it to remod your whole roster the same way TJ and Fatal do. You can use it, like I do, to occasionally slash through a ton of mods, and also a lot of handy functionality for your Grand Arena Scouting and TW. Thank you so much to Duckstab, Darkhug, Ibanec, General Milan, Sir Boss, Quig, Wilco, and Frick Frack Paddywhack. At the top of the heap, the #1 spot in Jester's Club Elite is Nomad's Reaper. This man pops in a stream from time to time, goes ham, drops hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, incredible support over the years. Thank you so much, my man. And of course, last but never least, our special thanks first to Yoda Force, one of my original supporters way back when, bought me the mic I'm speaking to you on right now, and even though he's long since quit the game, we wish him well from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for all you do in the background, keeping our enterprising, intelligent, inquisitive, and highly destructive daughter from ripping apart our home brick by brick while her father is tied up for a few hours at a time, trying to be halfway decent at a phone game. And of course, to my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to record our show together. I learn from you guys. Hopefully, occasionally I drop a gem that might be of help to you. Either way, the sum of us is of great value to our viewers. The feedback is overwhelmingly supportive. Couldn't be anywhere near as successful without you guys. So thank you so much for being here on a weekly basis and getting the good job done. Moving back over here, yeah, we're closed out. Week 2's done. We're now in the defense setting phase for week 3. I wish you all the very best of luck. Be creative, learn your lessons, do your scouting, all that good stuff. And until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.